What's up, everybody? This is the Messed Up to Setups podcast. I'm comedian Michael Halcomb, and today with me, comedian Big Jake Hovis. He's one of Louisville's funniest. In fact, he's been voted Louisville's funniest. We're going to talk about his journey into comedy, get some comedy tips, and workshop some jokes in the next episode. So you're not going to want to miss either. Stick around.
It's all messed up, yeah. Everything's messed up. We're going from this mess up to the next setup. Everything seems so messed up, but it's just our setup.
Hey everybody, comedian Michael Halcomb here. I got Big Jake Hovis with me. Big Jake, how's it going?
It's great, man. Yeah, doing the shows, traveling a little bit. I'm in Louisville at the moment, so that's great.
Yeah. Louisville's your stomping ground, right? Your home base.
That's where I own a house. So I grew up in Colorado, but the houses there a little pricey. So I'm like, let's go to Kentucky where they're a little more reasonable, and I fit in a little bit better. I'm a big fella. I'm a big burly, If I'm in the room, you'll notice. And Colorado, everybody's fit and they're granola and they're hiking, and it's like I might have gotten too fat for my home state. So I fit in really well in Kentucky. So
yeah, nice. You
good.
look like you belong in the Louisville airport.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
We're at the Louisville Fair.
That's right. Anything deep fried, they're like, hey, you've already had that. How was it?
Yes, right on, dude. Well, you're based out of Louisville. We met a few months ago, which was pretty fun. I saw you perform at, Comedy Caravan? Is that
the Caravan Comedy Club? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of our local. Yeah,
yes.
we're lucky enough to have 3 comedy clubs that are pretty much comedy clubs. 2 of them are always comedy clubs. One of them does a little bit of music, but for a town this size, a city this size, that's pretty good. I mean, in Denver, they had Comedy Works, and then they had Comedy Works downtown. They had the Improv, but some of those things were really, really hard to get in. And in Denver, it was a lot of the alternative scene. The guys go to breweries, guys go to all over the place. The don't tell comedy shows are really big in Denver. So they had to basically make their own thing, but we've got enough comedy clubs that we really, really are lucky.
Nice. So, nice, man. Well, so before we started recording, you had mentioned that you had been in Fort Wayne, and then
I was in Fort Wayne last night. Tonight I got a show in Nashville. This is breaking news. This happened this morning. I woke up and apparently I was voted the best comedian in Louisville again. So this is
dude.
4 years in a row. So
yes, congratulations, man.
I appreciate it. Yeah. And so people were texting me this morning about it. And so it's always fun.
Heck yeah, dude. That's awesome. Good for you, man.
Yeah. Well, it's good.
So do you get anything for that? It's bragging rights, of course, but
yeah, bragging rights. I think I get a little plaque. And
nice.
I get to perform for free at a party, but it's a fancy party where you'd have to pay to get in. It's got free food and stuff like that. So I get to get in for free, which is nice. But this is the cool part. So do you know what a hot brown is? Are you familiar with
is it like a hash brown?
No. So hot brown is what Louisville, like the food that Louisville is known for. Okay. So Louisville is known for the mint julep and bourbon and some sort of drinks. But as far as food, the food is the hot brown, which is an open-faced turkey sandwich.
Yes, I know. Yes, I know now.
With moray sauce, which is like cheese-based gravy, basically. And they had, a couple of years ago, they had what they called the Hot Brown Showdown, which was all of these places, including the Brown Hotel, which originated the Hot Brown, but
the Hot Brown
15
Showdown.
Different places did this Hot Brown Showdown when you'd go and you'd get little samples of it. And it was so good. I mean, I'm a big Hot Brown fan, you can tell. The cool thing that I was able to manipulate being voted the best comedian in Louisville. I was like, hey, do you need a judge? And they're like, sure. So I was the celebrity judge for the Hot Brown Showdown, which was that makes everything worth it.
Nice, dude. Wow. Well, man, that's incredible. Good for you, dude. Congrats on all that, man. 4 years in a row. That's quite the feat, dude.
Yeah. It's It's been a while, and they did the voting a little different this year, and so I wasn't sure. Instead of so years past, you would just kind of write in who you wanted to be the best comedian in Louisville, whatever. This year, there was a nomination process, and then 10 people were nominated, and then you'd go in and you would click the one that you wanted. So it's in yeah yeah. So it was a little different, but it still worked out. Whatever.
Sick, dude. So, how long have you been doing stand-up comedy?
Yeah, let's see here. I think it's been 6.5 years. I want to say I started in March.
Amazing.
I want to say 6.5 years. Yeah.
So that's amazing. 4 times best comedian in Louisville in your 6.5 year career. That's
Yep.
impressive, bro.
Yep. Yep. And
Yeah.
I haven't lived here very long. I've only lived here for about 4.5 years, I think, something like that. I think I moved to Louisville in 2021, but it was in February of 2021. So yeah, haven't been here that long, but jumped into the scene. One of the first things before I had a job in Louisville, I I went to the comedy club like that night, where like the moving truck is still in the parking lot, and I'm like, I'm going to the comedy club. I got super super into it, and I did improv for a couple of years before I got into stand up. So I did improv, and I was doing it all the time. I got really really into it. I was doing it like 5 or 6 nights a week, where
Wow.
you're going to rehearsals or you're going to shows or whatever it is, and I really enjoyed that. So
So I've had several comedians. I've done one improv class. I've had other comedians on here who've done some improv and talk about the value of improv
yeah,
for stand-up comedy. I'm curious. I have a two-part question here. Would you one recommend for those interested in doing stand-up to do improv, perhaps first or during?
yeah,
And the second follow-up question is like, what are like 1, 2, 3 things that you took from improv that have maybe helped you in stand up?
yeah. Yeah. So I think I probably would recommend improv. It depends. I really enjoyed my time doing improv. And when I started in improv, I didn't expect to perform. I just wanted to kind of make friends and have
Right.
something fun to do, have a creative outlet. And then the bug bit me, and then you're into it. But some people think that improv can really help with thinking on your feet or crowd work or things like that. And maybe it can. I'm not sure. I don't think I think maybe a little bit. I mean, a lot of the improv you do is scene based.
Right.
It's reactive, but it is a yes and thing. I don't know if it can help with that. I think what it can help with is stage presence. I think it can I can think it definitely can help with confidence, and that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Confidence by itself. If you go on stage and you're confident, you will automatically look funnier. And if you're able to build that confidence through improv, which is what I was able to do, I think I was lucky in that sense because I got to kill on stage. Absolutely murder the whole room. I remember it very vividly. I did one joke, the whole place explodes. Biggest laugh of the night. Unbelievable. And I was able to do that before I had written a single joke. And so I knew what it's like to crush a stage. And you think about going back to like a beginning, like little baby,
Right.
a stand up comic, they can't crush on stage for a long time.
Right.
Like they're
Right.
not good enough and they don't get booked in shows that are good enough. So it's like even if they are good enough right out of the gate, which is never the case, the shows that they're going to are open mics and they're going to like little rinky dink showcases and they're not going to sold out comedy
Right.
clubs.
Right.
People are there to laugh. So I was able to crush on stage before I wrote, and that was absolutely was huge. I think another thing I got from improv was there's a lot of positivity that come with improv. It's the yes and it's the we're
Right.
in this together.
And
And
you're
that,
making each other look good, right? Like that's
yeah,
part of
you're
the
making each
goal of
other look
improv.
good. Yeah, it's not as competitive. It's definitely not as
Cutthroat.
cutthroat. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Or the it's interesting. Stand up. If you have a stand up comedian and an improviser together, they're like those two people are not going to get along. But um, because one is going to be very cynical and very negative, usually the comic, and one is going to be kind of rainbows. over there. And so to take a positive approach, which is what my persona is when I'm on stage, I'm trying to be positive. I'm trying to be, the life of the part. I'm not trying to make biting political statements.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to show how smart I am. I'm trying to
Right.
have everybody have a good time and, kind of spread joy more than, you know, change the world.
Right. Well, you mentioned a minute ago, like if you're in the room, people are gonna know it. What? And you're tall. Like you are.
Yeah,
How tall are you? 6'7" is? What'd
six
you say?
eight. Yeah,
6'8". I mean, so I have like a picture of me and you together. Where I'm standing on like a pew, and I'm
yeah,
still like not as tall.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And like, so he's folks, he's not kidding. When he's in the
yeah,
room, you know it. And so
yeah,
like, I think, dude, like you do an incredible job. You are an imposing presence,
yeah,
but you're warm. That's the
yeah,
thing,
yeah, and
you know?
that's on purpose.
Yeah.
Where I'm trying to be, like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. I want the audience to very quickly recognize, "Oh, that guy knows what he's doing. He's going to
Right.
be telling us jokes. He's not going to be challenging us in a, have you ever thought about this in this really dark way? It's going to be fun. It's going to be, I mean, there are comedians that do that. That are like, I don't like, have you, I'm sure you know the term clapter, which
Yeah.
I just hate clapter of like, you just say something that's politically, popular and everybody
Right.
claps. But you're like, we're at a comedy club, man. We're
Right.
not trying to get claps. We're trying to get
Right.
laughs. So,
Right. Yeah, yeah, I get that. Well, that's interesting. I think like having done some improv, like one of the things that it's helped me do is be a better observer in the moment,
mm,
right? Like I talk a lot about like in my blog about noticing the first unusual thing or like the first
yeah,
weird thing. As far as like going into crowd work, right? As soon as somebody says something unusual, you're just like on it,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that's where you can sort of like take the exaggeration and
Mm.
run with it. Same in improv in a way. You wait for that unusual thing to happen, and then boom, you build out from there in a way. So I think it did help me a little bit in that way as well. But
Yeah, here's one that you kind of sparked this in me. Now, is this podcast free?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so this is worth the price of the podcast. What I'm about to say, improv has really did help me with names, and
Ah,
so it's very common when you start an improv scene to like two adults walk onto the
yeah,
scene. They don't know who they are. They don't know what role they're playing. That's just really really common. And they'll look at each other like, "Hey, Bill, I hear the sheriff's office is really booked today." And now Bill know either the other guy knows his name's Bill and he's a sheriff or maybe a deputy or he works at the sheriff's. He knows a lot about himself because the other person did that. We call that giving gifts in improv. You kind of name the other person. I
right,
mean, good improvisers will do that all the time.
right,
And throughout that scene, the more they use the other's names, the more they make the thing real. But the guy's name is not Bill. You don't know that.
right.
If you just heard it once in your whole life, So when I do crowd work, I like to get people's names. Not every comedian does this. Most comedians I've seen that do crowd work don't actually get people's names,
Hmm,
but I do, and then I'll use their name throughout the set. I'll
right,
have callbacks
right,
to that person, and I'll be able to say their name. And I think that does a couple of things. It makes me like I'm listening. I'm one of you
right,
guys, right?
right,
But it's also it's easy to be likable if you know the
right,
people's names. Like you I asked you your name and then I remembered it. And then after the show, I still remembered it. It came up to
right.
me. This happened yesterday. Couple of two, 3 people that I got their name after the show that came up after, hey, that was a fun show. I'm like, hey, thanks, Alex. Appreciate you coming. They're like, wow, my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great tip, dude. A great insight there. So you've been doing stand-up comedy six and a
Mhm.
half years ish. And what initially got you into it?
Yeah.
What like was that point where you were like, I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. So I think I'd have to start with improv. So I'll briefly say like why I went from nothing to improv. And the reason was there's a pastor that I knew who is a pastor in Delaware, and I was in the PhD program, And so I'm getting a PhD at a seminary, and he's in my cohort. So we're doing a lot of stuff together. We, went out to dinner many times. We still talk on the phone once a week. He's a friend of mine, but he was saying how he looked up and he realized he didn't have any non-Christian friends. Everybody he knew was Christian. And so what he did is he joined a hockey league. I'm like, that sounds terrible. Hockey doesn't sound fun at all. But I looked up and I was like, oh man. So I'm in the PhD program. At the time, I was a youth pastor. I was a high school teacher at a Christian school. Like, I know a lot of Christians, very few non-Christians. And so how can I expand my horizons? And I was listening to a podcast and people were like, hey, you can take an improv class. I didn't even know that was a thing. So I just Googled improv class Denver, and sure enough, you can take improv classes and they're not that expensive. So that's what I did. And so as soon as that happened, all of a sudden I'm getting, a dozen people in my phone contacts are all improv people. I'm making a lot of friends, and it's super, super fun with that. And then the improv bug kind of bit of like, I like it performing. I like doing the rehearsals. And then, so I did basically just improv for maybe 2.5 years. Then I did a sketch show, and it was this holiday sketch show. We performed it, I want to say 18 times. I got paid $0, and I wrote 4 or 5 of the sketches. So I wrote the sketches, which was really fun. I found the writing process, making it perfect, not just like this is good enough, but making it perfect and then seeing that on stage. I found that very pleasant. But the biggest thing is during that sketch show, there was a time when I had a castmate who had to take a lot of time to do a costume change. And the way that we did it is we did this was the beginning of the second act with this big musical number. And then at the end of the musical number, I was on stage by myself for 5 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes. And I was me. I was making some announcements about the theater and about whatever. But I was just me. And I was just so I had a couple of jokes to go in there. And I'm like, that was my favorite part of the sketch show. Who needs these other people? Like my favorite part is when I'm alone on stage. So that happened it was a holiday sketch show. So the last show was late December. And it wasn't until March of the next year that I did my first open mic. And once I did that, I was like, we're done.
Right.
This is it. This is it. Unfortunately, whenever you start in stand-up, you're bad. But I was like, I have the memory of actually being good at this. I have killed on stage before in an improv setting. So I'm like, let's get to that. Let's keep going. So it was a lot of that. That was kind of the journey.
Did you have any comedic influences either growing up or along the way?
Yeah. So probably the biggest comedic influence is the Blue Collar Comedy Tour guys. Loved those guys. Yeah. Loved those guys.
Is that like Jeff Foxworthy and Larry the
Jeff
Cable Guy?
Larry the Cable Guy, Bill Engvall, Ron White.
Yeah.
And so I had a cassette tape. I'm not that old, but I had a cassette tape of Jeff Foxworthy when I was like 13, 14, and I ran that thing through. I have those jokes memorized. And then that's before Blue Collar Comedy Tour. The Blue Collar Comedy Tour came out, and that was a big thing. And I think I went in person when I was a kid. My parents took me to see that. And then the movie came out, and I watched the movie, and I got a CD, so I was just like, I was into it. Now, I'm not Southern, so some of the jokes are like, not as like, hey, I super relate to this, but I still liked it. And so those guys are, at least, I don't know if they're clean all the time, but definitely Blue Collar Comedy Tour was clean. It's clever. It's really, really punchy. I mean, when you think of those guys, you think of their catchphrases like "get her done" or you might be a redneck. But if you just listen to their regular stand-up, they're really good stand-ups.
Right.
And Ron White is absolutely fantastic. And so the quick story with Ron White is in Denver, the club you want to get into is Comedy Works. And back then you had to call on the phone and leave a message for like 12 weeks in a row, where you call this number and then you just say, Jake Hovis, close. That's it. That's how you do it.
Wow.
And they have some sort of spreadsheet where they're keeping track of how many times you called. And once it gets up to like, it's your turn, you get 2 minutes on stage. And
Wow.
so I finally get my 2 minutes, and I'm very excited. I have been doing open mics. I think this was my, like, I have a spreadsheet so I know how many performances I have done. I think this was like my 50 or 60th performance. So I have some chops. I've done it. I've run
Yeah.
it. I'm getting some good stuff. And so the first time I'm at Comedy Works, they announce kind of 2 days before, hey, you're going to Ron White. Ron White is in town and he's going to close it out, which meant the
Sweet.
place sells out instantly.
Yeah.
Sells
Right.
out. And my wife was not able to go into the show. She couldn't buy a ticket. Sold out.
Wow.
She had lollygagged enough so that she couldn't do it. And I actually take it back. It was just 3 minutes on stage. And Derek Stroop, I remember, was the host. So he's now blowing up. He's super funny.
Mhm.
He's there's a video on my YouTube where he's introducing me and I'm going on stage, and it was like unbelievable getting on stage. And it was Ron White, mostly the people that liked him were on stage or were in the audience. And that was super fun. That was very
Nice.
exciting to see. I wasn't brave enough to like meet him. I like waved and like that was it. But my first time at Comedy Works, he was also on the bill.
Nice. Well, one of the other things, like we met at the seminary. So we met at the
Yeah,
comedy club, but the next day
yeah,
you
yeah,
came to the show I was doing at the seminary,
yeah.
which
I did.
has since been banned. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that here from them, but it's my podcast. So, it was a completely clean show and
Yeah.
I did like 15-ish minutes and I thought it went pretty well for
Yep.
that show, but we met there too. So we have this parallel sort of background where we've both
Mhm,
been in seminary, we've both done the PhD, we've both ministered in
mhm.
churches. So yeah, I'm wondering, you're still pastoring, right? At least part-time?
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
I'm doing interim. I'm an interim pastor at a church here in Louisville where I preach every other week. So the way that we kind of worked
Yeah.
it out is I'm doing every other week.
Are your sermons laden with comedy?
No.
Yep, same.
And I've thought about injecting a little bit. It's interesting. I mean, I've thought about injecting a little more comedy into them. At the beginning, I'll do maybe a couple of little like ice breaking jokes, whatever. And I have in the past preached a little bit more uh fun. I remember one time I was preaching, this was years ago. I was filling in a pulpit, and the way that I said things, people kept laughing. I was like, "Oh, that wasn't meant to be a joke." But I'm just, just the cadence of like, hey, that's silly to do that. Now the church I'm at is very small.
Right.
And so part of that is probably like, hey, I don't want to tell a joke and then just get crickets, and this, performing at a smaller, like less people is way harder than more people. If like the place is sold out and half the people laugh,
Right.
that's still, 70,
Yep.
80 people,
Right.
But if there's six and all
Yep.
six don't get it, you're like, well, just gonna move on. Um,
Yeah. It's interesting because yeah, I don't like when I preach, I don't work tons of jokes into my stuff. I really like just diving into the text, right?
yeah.
And I preached last Sunday at the college here, and I did work in 3 jokes. 2 of them worked, 1 of them didn't. It
Yeah.
was total crickets.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was the first time I had kind of done it.
Yep.
And then I had about a month ago, I did my first church show, and it was in
Nice.
this huge camp, church camp barn kind of
Mm,
like thing. Huge high ceiling. It was probably 400 people there, but
nice.
the ceilings were so high and the people were so spread out in the room that
Mm,
laughs just couldn't travel, you know?
mm.
And
Yeah.
that I mean I was getting laughs, but they weren't like in a tight compact room where the laughs
Yeah.
echo and bounce and travel, and
Yeah.
so that was a little challenging.
Yeah.
But have you done strictly church shows ever?
Yeah. Yeah. I've done many church shows. I would say I want to say 2023, my best show of the day. I was kind of like reflecting on the year, and my best show of the year was at a church show. It was
Mm,
super fun. It was from the pulpit, right? So like I'm on the real church stage talking
Right.
into a microphone and like, okay, but it works. I had a friend of mine, he did a 10 minutes of opening. So it was a warm crowd and I was able to do it. But yeah, I've done church shows. I've also done shows in a gym, and that was a rough one. I
Right.
back when I was a high school teacher, I was a teacher at a Christian school, and the school was like, hey, for senior night, we have a senior night. Do you want to do like 15 minutes of comedy? I'm like, sure. And so it's all of the seniors are dressed real nice. All of their parents are dressed real nice, big round tables in the gym. But right before I go up, the campus pastor does like this 15-minute, super heartfelt, like invitation and like really like Billy Graham. I mean, like walk the aisle. I mean, it was really intense. And so then I get on stage. I'm like, why am I going after him? What is going on? And the microphone was in the PA system. The cord is way too short. So I had to like stand with my back against the wall. It's a whole thing. And I'm like, well, that went sideways.
Yeah, dude, some of the situations you can get in outside of like a comedy club where everything's like set and,
Yeah.
the same every time. Like some of these like unusual places where we do comedy, it's so funny. I mean, it's frustrating in the moment, but it's so funny in
Yep.
retrospect, like the
Yep.
sound systems and the room configurations and just like all the things, dude. It's funny.
Well, I had a
But
friend of mine reminded me of this. He came to see me one time, and he's like, "I'm never going to see you again because of the show." And it was they were doing this auction. They were trying to raise money for the charity, and and so we were supposed to go on at like 7:30, but the auction had so many items. They're like, okay, we'll make it 8. No, we'll make it like 8:30. We'll make it 9. Well, how about 9:45? And so like he thought it's going to start at like 7:30. It ends up starting at like 9:45, and everybody has been drinking at this auction. They also were supporting the charity through beverages. So it was just an absolute just every single person was wasted and they were loud, they weren't paying attention. My buddy and his wife were like, we gotta get home to the babysitter, whole thing.
yeah, situations like that are so crazy. I
Yeah.
mean, you almost, unless you've been to like a club before, you
Mhm.
never really know what you're walking into, right?
No.
Even at the one I did the seminary there in Louisville,
Yep.
I went in the night before to see the place, huge chapel,
Yep.
and I was looking. There was a there's a huge Hebrew scroll, wrote out like 40 foot long behind the pulpit. And the pulpit is like swallowed me. So I'm
Yes.
like trying to figure out how am I gonna do this. And then the next day I get in there for the actual show and they're like, nope, you're not allowed up there but on the stage. We're
Nope.
gonna put you on the floor. So then I'm down on the floor, where people it's hard to see because I'm a short
Yeah.
dude. But
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
funny, dude. Just so
Yeah.
funny.
I think that was my favorite part, maybe, is just like, hey, you know how you thought you were gonna be on the stage? Well, you're not. Um every single other person who spoke that day, there were several people giving announcements, people giving away books, people
I
doing
know, dude.
all sorts of stuff. Everyone was on stage except you.
So funny, dude. And then they ordered the destruction of
Yeah.
the audio and video. So funny, bro. So funny. But I mean, it was a little frustrating when we were going
Yeah.
back and forth for weeks about it. But
Yeah.
I'm glad I had the chance to do it. It was fun. It was like just 15 minutes of roasting, so that was good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But well, man, congrats on being named for the 4th time Louisville's
Yeah.
funniest
Yeah.
comedian or funniest person. That's amazing, dude. Good for you. Happy
Thank
for you, man.
Appreciate it.
Sounds like you got a lot of great things going on, shows. Here at the end of episode 1, I just real quick want to point people to your website,
Yeah.
which is bigjakecomedy.com. And
That's right.
people can go there and see what you've got going on.
Mhm.
They see some clips of you, where
Yep.
you've performed. And then also get in touch with you if they want to book you, follow you
That's
on
right.
socials as well. So if you're watching, go to bigjakecomedy.com and follow him on socials. And he's got Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all the things. And if you want to book him, get in touch with him. Louisville's funniest guy, 4 years in a row. It's
That's right.
amazing, dude. We have another show with Big Jake coming up. He's gonna bring us a joke or something funny. We're gonna workshop it and then do some joke stuff on the fly as well. So you're not gonna want to miss that. Yeah, dude, thanks for coming on, man. I'm
Yeah,
grateful.
absolutely. Yeah, thanks for
Yeah,
having me.
yeah,
Fun
this is
time.
fun. Appreciate the comedy insights and
Yeah.
yeah, guys, after you go to Big Jake Comedy, head over to michaelhalcomb.live. Follow there. I got a daily blog. I write about comedy stuff all the time, comedy mind hacks, and got the podcast up there and all kinds of great stuff. So appreciate you. Follow there or on social. That'd be great. But we're going to wrap it up here for this episode of Messed Up to Setups. We're going to stop and say we hope that helps.
It's all messed up, yeah. Everything's messed up. We're going from this mess up to the next setup. Everything seems so messed up, but it's just not.